What's up, Nerd Nation? Hope your holiday's been filled with good food, good people, and at least some free time. Today we are taking a look at a playtest for a game I had the chance to jump into called Expedition Into Darkness, a fantasy extraction dungeon crawler, and after about 90 minutes, this one genuinely surprised me. This is not a final review though. This is not going to have a score, and it's definitely not going to have a verdict. This is just my first impression from the current playtest build. Now, before we get into gameplay, let's quickly throw up the specs so you can see if your machine can handle it. Alrighty nerds, these are the very reasonable requirements for the playtest build. Minimum specs hit most mid-range PCs, and the recommended specs aren't doing anything wild either. You're not going to melt your graphics cards, believe me. On my setup, load times were a little long, but once I was actually in the dungeon, performance was stable, and that's what really matters the most here. So what is Expedition Into Darkness? At its core, this is a third-person co-op PvE extraction dungeon crawler. You go in solo or with friends. Look what you can carry, and try to make it back out alive. If you're familiar with games like Escape from Tarkov or Dark and Darker, you already understand the loop. Just don't expect PvP here. This game is strictly PvE, and honestly, this works in its favor. You start as a low-level nobody, your first dungeon is terrifying, you hear noises, you open doors slowly, you loot a few chests and start feeling confident. Then you open one door and behind it are undead, flesh monsters, or goblins rushing you all at once. You start swinging, not even checking your health bar, and before you know it, you're dead, gear gone. Next run, you're smarter, maybe better geared, maybe you bring a friend. Either way, the dungeon teaches you. And yes, sometimes the lesson is run. Atmosphere is where this game absolutely shines. When you enter a dungeon, it's not the music that makes it scary, it's the silence. Your footsteps, your breathing, then a door opens, and suddenly the dungeon wakes up. Before each run, you're given info about possible enemies and conditions, but honestly, I barely looked at it. I just wanted in, and that says a lot. Most extraction games give you guns, armor, and familiarity. Here, you've got a sword, cloth armor, and an iron helmet. No Kevlar, no safety net. There's a real sense of vulnerability, especially knowing enemies might be using magic, crude weapons, or brute strength, and that vulnerability pulled me in hard. I'll be honest, I'm bad at these games. I was bad at Tarkov, I was really bad at Dark and Darker. And this game hit the same tension immediately. Even knowing it was a playtest, my nerves kicked in. The game already has a lot working in its favor, rough edges and all. First, the camp. This is your base of operations where you craft, upgrade, and prepare. You start small, but as you bring resources back, you expand. It's very similar to Tarkov's hideout, and honestly, that's exactly what I want to do with my loot. Second are the vendors. Right now there are 3 active merchants, the Squire, Fletcher, and Blacksmith. With more planned, you gain trust, unlock missions, and slowly expand what's available to you. Combat is surprisingly solid. Melee requires real aim, especially against goblins. Some are chest height, others are so small you have to look down to hit them. Blocking matters, and stamina matters, so keep that in mind when you go toe-to-toe with these monsters. I didn't use bows during recording, but I tested them afterward. And they're fun, not overly realistic, not arcadey, but it's a good balance. The enemy design is fantastic. Undead are mostly silent until you disturb them. Goblins though, laughing, growling, chattering in nearby rooms, you never know where they are. You just know that they are close. And finally, the loot system. Inventory space matters. You need a goal before entering a dungeon. Do you bring bandages or leave a room for a quest item? You can't carry everything, and that forces meaningful decisions. And also, yes, you can rotate loot. That alone tells you the devs understand this genre. Now, let's talk rough edges, because it is a playtest. Matchmaking felt uneven at times. I was grouped with players far more geared and experienced than me. It made runs easier, but I'd prefer struggling with players at my own level. Gear score or level-based matchmaking could help here. Enemy balance is mostly solid, but I noticed moments where hits didn't register quite right, stagger could be clearer. I'd love more defensive tools, maybe a kick or a shove to create space. We also encountered what seemed like a dungeon boss. It was a large orc or hobgoblin, and it felt like we barely scratched it. That might be intentional, but even low-level players should feel like they can participate, not just run away. Now, in terms of combat, it can feel a bit swing-heavy. I'd love to see more attack variety, jabs, downward strikes, directional swings, especially for smaller enemies like goblins. That said, the game teaches an important lesson fast. And that lesson is, sometimes the best move is to leave. Now, despite those concerns, the potential here is massive. Small tweaks to combat, directional attacks, better spacing tools could elevate this game significantly. Matchmaking based on progression would also go a long way. I'd also love more control over dungeon selection. Let players choose which depths they're ready for instead of everything being fully random. What really impressed me though is how solid this already feels for a playtest. No crashes, no game-breaking bugs, just rough edges. And those are fixable. Some of the issues I ran into, probably skill issues, and if you've been around the channel long enough, you know that we just don't play games. We play games horribly here. Some final thoughts. I'm not scoring Expedition into Darkness, it's too early for that, but I am going to keep playing it, and I'm genuinely excited to see where it goes. I'll put links to the Steam page, development, dev Twitter, and Discord down below. If future playtests open up, I strongly recommend keeping an eye on this one. Just remember, this isn't the final form of the game. Things will change. And one thing I do hope they avoid is the strict extraction timer. I want that D&D style freedom, deciding as a group how deep we go and when it's time to leave. After about 90 minutes, the game has heart, identity, and a strong foundation. Alright nerds, what do you think? Is this something you try, or are you burned out of extraction games? Let me know down below. Until next time, nerd out.